seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
Coming soon. Snake River Manufacturing is developing a revolutionary new way to design and build a custom kayak trailer. This modular design lets you customize your trailer one piece at a time, allowing you to grow as you go.
You know, a lot of folks think gorillas can't read. But when the magazine's this good, even I had to subscribe.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for episode 30 of the Kayak Cafe. Tonight, we have a great guest who is immersed in the kayak industry. Before we get started with that, this episode and every episode this year is brought to you by Snake River Manufacturing. Go to snakerivermanufacturing.us and check out all of the cool things that Steve and the crew are doing to revolutionize how you get your kayak to the water. All right. On tonight's episode, we have a great individual who has done a lot and is still doing a lot in the kayak world. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Steve Owens. Good evening, Steve. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. What about you?
Doing well, doing well. We were both commiserating about all the hats and things we had to do today. So hopefully this is a welcome break in our massive items to do. So just really quickly, if you wouldn't mind, for those that don't know who you are, can you give a brief rundown of who you are and all the hats you wear?
Oh, first off, I'm a Yankees fan. No.
All right, that was good. See you later. No.
All right, see you. Short episode. So probably be the most exciting that way. But no, I'm a kayak tournament director. I tournament direct for the Bassmaster Kayak Series. Daniel Davis, my partner, and I, we do Georgia BASS Nation Kayak Series, Tennessee BASS Nation Kayak Series. Just started fishing, golly, I always forget what year it is. Probably 12 years ago, I guess. About how long? 12, 13 years ago. In kayaking, and just one thing led to another. Run some tournaments for Chad Hoover and them at KBF, in Tennessee and Georgia. And we were successful with that. And, Ryan Lambert and I had our grassroots club, TVKA, Tennessee Valley Kayak Anglers on Lake Chickamauga here where I live in Tennessee, and started tournament directing there. And it just evolved into everything else. And after doing some of the KBF stuff for a little while, our events were pretty good. And Dwayne Wally, he the one that started the Bassmaster Kayak Series with Bassmaster. He enlisted me when we were formatting and building the series to come in and help with that. And I ran a few events year one there, and then had to step away. I just didn't have enough time at a regular job. And some years went by, and I stayed into the kayak fishing and running tournaments, Tennessee and Georgia Bass Nation and TVKA, our grassroots club. And God just opened the door to where, 3 years ago I could leave a regular job and do this stuff full time. So
heck yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Have you always loved fishing?
I have. I grew up pretty much my entire life on Nickajack Lake. It's in between Gunnersville and Chickamauga. And it used to be the joke, but now Nickajack is just loaded with stupid big bass. And grew up crappie fishing there with my dad, my aunts, uncles, my grandparents, my mom, and all my buddies. Anything we could do to get a line in the water, we would just make our own little stupid brick trot lines out of whatever we could find and catch a turtle or something, and aunt and uncle owned bait and tackle store. So we used to trap turtles and muskrat and catfish and do the whole 9 yards. So yeah, I've been in it my whole life.
So you've had the great growing up opportunities of being out in the woods all the time.
Yeah, back when you could literally just, long as you could hear your mom yelling, that you could go as far as you wanted. You know,
Yes.
we'd
Or a
be on the
bell.
riverbanks. Yeah, yeah, we'd be on the riverbanks, and you could just hear my one buddy Edward, one of my best friends growing up. His mom had a voice that would carry for miles, it seemed, and I would just be digging around in the mud, catching. We actually where I lived, uh, I want to say probably a dozen or so of the big hellbenders growing up. They were in our little area. And I don't understand it. I've never seen them anywhere else in the country.
Hmm.
But we'd have those, and we'd go down there and play with them, and uh, all this stuff just flooding back when you ask me where I grew up, and we had a great childhood. Got to do a lot of stuff on the river, on the waters.
That's the one fortune. I grew up on the Eastern Shore of Virginia, which is
Uh-huh.
close to like civilization. But I was able to go ride to a pond, go fishing, go walk through the woods, and it's they haven't experienced that as much as I have. So that's the one. If I had,
Yeah.
that's my regret. It's like I wish I could just give them the opportunity to run wild. So, but when you were fishing as a young coming up angler, when did you have your first kayak experience?
Uh, Man, I was probably, I don't even know how old I was. I was an adult, so Lambert and we've been friends for 20 years probably. And man, let's see, I moved here in our home on Chickamauga in 2011. It's 2012. Yeah, because he had a duck boat, and his little daughter Mackenzie, she would go out with everybody. She was real small, and um, he just got tired of lugging around a duck boat all the time, and he got to looking at kayaks. And Native makes an FX tandem, like
Hmm.
a style hybrid, and so we looked at some of those, and he bought one from Hook One in Nashville. That was Hoover shop at the time, and we found a used one for me in Asheville, North Carolina. So we literally loaded up. He was an X-ray tech, and I was selling. I left a chemical plant. I was selling big rigs. I sold big rigs for a little while.
Hmm.
I had a small Lexus ES 300 car came to about right here, and we loaded up. I went and bought a Yakima rack. And we drove 5.5 hours, got that kayak, locked my keys in the car, put that rack on in the dark at the Texas Roadhouse, and drove all the way back home in that kayak. And as soon as we pulled in the driveway, that kayak slid off my car. We had tied it with boat anchor rope, which stretches,
Oh,
and so we hopped in it, and I crappie fished my whole life. So that's what I did here on Chickamauga was panfish with it. He had gotten into a bass boat or a kayak tournament just on a whim. Literally stopped by Walmart and grabbed a Yum Dinger package with
hmm.
hooks and all in it, and just talked me into it. And the first time I caught a bass on purpose in a kayak, I was hooked. It was just something else about it.
Yeah, it's definitely, especially one of not necessarily of a good size, but of a good spirit. I would say you hook into
Yeah.
a good, strong fighting bass. You're like, yep, that's where I want to be. So,
Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, it literally, I was just throwing a spinner bait. I could barely even throw a bait caster. I probably wasn't even throwing a bait caster. I literally, the first year we kayak fished in tournaments, I would throw a 5XD on a spinning rod just because
mm,
I couldn't throw a bait caster worth crap. Um, and it's amazing. I feel like I caught a lot more fish doing stupid stuff back then than I do now that I own, 2 bedrooms in a garage full of junk, But
oh
it
yeah,
was a 16-inch bass I caught on the spinnerbait, and it pulled because those natives are real light. Yeah, it was a great time.
took you for a ride.
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah, so I know growing up myself, we didn't have a lot of everyone that I fished around, they did saltwater fishing. So spinning rods were the
yeah,
go-to. So I wasn't subjected to a good bait caster till I was an adult. So I
yeah.
I hear all these, what you should and shouldn't throw on a spinner, but on a spinning rod. But I've thrown everything on a spinning rod growing up because it's all I had. So, did
Yeah.
you when you were first starting out, did you have access to? You said your family owned a bait and tackle, so you probably had access to some pretty cool stuff that was readily available, was it not?
Yeah, well, my aunt and uncle, they owned a bait and tackle shop, and my dad had a regular job, but he was like the son they never had, and we grew up, every evening and every day at that tackle shop. And it was just your old school, um, chips and yoo-hoos and ice cold beer with
Hmm.
live bait. And they had some bait and tackle. They had some jelly worms or the little cork poppers you use for bluegill
Hmm.
and stuff. But it wasn't like the tackle stuff we have today because I was born in '75, so we're talking about like 1980-ish stuff like that. And where we grew up on Nickajack, at the time, they had uh, I don't think you're supposed to call them dog fights anymore, but that's all I can think of right now. They had weeknighters, and my dad and them did some bass fishing stuff, but um, it was even then it was a lot of just I can remember some of the old Abu stuff he had. I
Hmm.
wanted those real so bad I couldn't stand it. And I wasn't allowed to touch them. Because you backlash.
Oh
And
yeah.
but yeah, we had a lot of good stuff. Got to see a lot of stuff come through on that river. We had a lot of good times.
Yeah, there's a lot of memories made. I can imagine. Yeah. So I guess the bait and tackle was your first unofficial sponsor, huh?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah, that's the one that got us into it all.
So what took you from it being a hobby to like something you wanted to do as a profession, or then that next level?
Yeah, I guess it kind of, you know, we ran tournaments and we had fun doing it, and then I was kind of about done with kayak fishing. Just a little bit of a burnout because we'd done it for
Hmm.
probably about 5 years, and it was just like, yeah, I'm tired. It kind of you just realize how much time you're putting into things, and so and this was about the time you could actually start finding a way to make a little money doing something,
Hmm.
which is still extremely difficult. And now that we figured it out, it's changing again. So,
Mm.
that's getting even tougher to keep these things going. And I'm meaning like, our lower, like grassroots, BASS Nation, state level
Hmm.
stuff's it's really hard. Um, so I was kind of done. And AJ McWhorter, y'all know him, the Hobie man, and ran Hobie Bass Open Series. He had moved here, and he become one of my best friends. And we were kind of leaving, native, and just kind of just getting out of everything. Our shop here in Tennessee, Hook One, was closing down. So it's kind of like, you know what, man, let's just move on. And so AJ reached out to me and he said, "Hey, before you decide to just get out," because he knew I love tackle. I'm a big, big tackle, rod and reel guy. I
Hmm.
love promoting. I love promoting stuff. I'm a hype man. I like hyping you because you do a good job, kind of thing. And just, he said, before you bow out, let me introduce you to somebody. So he introduced me to Jamie Koza, that owns Dugout Bait and Tackle. Um, and talking to him for a little bit, getting to know him, you know, and he's got a different kind of mentality. He's like, there's people in your life that can see things that you don't. And
Hmm.
he had a vision for things because he's been in the fishing industry his whole life. He's that shop has always been a high end bait and tackle store, service a lot of the professional people across the country. And he looked at what all we did and he saw where from the boat world, we can take some of those things and expand them into what we do and monetize it, to make a living. And
Hmm.
which all that comes from sponsor people. And at the time, my son, I had my son in high school. So fortunately, we got a great relationship now. I'm still fairly young and he's getting a little older. So, it matches great. Well, he had started his own flooring business. And I got to see, an entrepreneurial side of it from him and then AJ and then Jamie. And it just it re-energized me, because at the time it was the right before COVID, about a year or so before, when fishing was booming. So
Hmm.
all of our relationships with manufacturing was phenomenal. So we were able to build the Dugout Bait and Tackle Pro Team, um, and it just got me energized. It gave me something new because my job there is to introduce you to people in the industry that we purchase from and let them see
Right.
what you do so that you can build your relationship with them so that you can start getting paid sponsorships from them, more than just a product allowance kind of thing. Um, and so that just re-energized me. And then Bassmaster came back around. looking for someone to take the series over that actually is a kayaker, to have a mindset to go along with their platform that the anglers could listen to. And so I was helping them, try to figure out who to hire. And it just hit me one day. I was like, you know what? Let's see if it works for me. So I talked with my wife and I said, this is what it looks like financially. And looks like, I've got flexibility in my life. I don't have a regular 9 to 5 to get to. And it just worked out. And so what it did for me was it just showed me, self-employment's hard. It's really hard. Essentially, it's what I am, but it's worth it. Now that I've done that, I've had wonderful jobs my whole life. I've been blessed to be a reactor operator at chemical plants. I've been in maintenance at a really good chemical plant, and made phenomenal livings doing it. But this is what I want to do. And if fishing dries up tomorrow, I'm going to find something, a shovel and a pickaxe, to work for myself still, because I don't know. It is tough, but it's just nothing like it.
It's at the end of the day, you can only look in the mirror. It's you.
That's it. Now there's days where it's easier to just go in and pick up the shovel and at 3:00 put it down and go home and not have to worry about anything. But there's give and take, because I'm sure you understand.
Right.
There's not having to worry about bringing things in is a lot easier than having to hustle it all the time. But
right.
I guess that's what makes me enjoy it the most. Is I've always enjoyed a hustle. I've always had some sort of side hustle.
So when you went to your wife, was it an easy sell, or was it
yeah?
We need to pray on this for a couple of weeks.
Well, we obviously did that a lot, but for her, because she saw how much I was putting into the sport, is what we'll call it, the sport there. And she also saw how much regret I was creating for myself, because I've got at the time we had 3 granddaughters. Now we've got 4 granddaughters with a grandson on the way. I've got a relationship with my nephew and my family. We're all close, but I was trying every way to keep up with Hobie and fish those, fish all of our local stuff, do Tennessee and Georgia Bass Nation, and I was having a blast with it, but I regretted all the time I was missing with people, because I still had a regular 9 to 5. And so I was about 46, 45. It's about 5-6 years ago. I'm 50 now. We looked at it and she was like, there's a point now where there's not enough of you to go around. Number one, for your family, because you regret not being at certain places. And number two, you've got a regular, 7 to 3:30 job. And you've got dugout, you've got your kayak series and everything. She said, so your plate's overloaded. So you need to try to figure it out. And so we looked at it, and it was either stay working where I work and just put all my money up for an early retirement, or choose to do this, make less, but see where I can grow it into, and, it's opened some doors where I see some things in my future that I'll be able to do with my son, on his side of the world, because I've learned the business stuff. And so I sat down with her, and she keeps us in very good financial shape. She's smart, she's frugal. She doesn't raise her voice. She's level-headed and calm, which I need, because I'm usually the opposite. And when she says something, it carries wisdom and weight. And she was like, you can't go buy an NRX and a Stella combo every day. You can't go eat caviar all the time, but we can do it. And God's blessed us, and it's opened up a lot, and it's no regrets whatsoever. I know that's cliche, but I'm telling you, it's the timing was right, because Jamie told me, he said, just trust me whenever it's time, because I was ready to go. And he said, whenever it's time, I'll let you know. And I asked him, I said, hey, here's these opportunities here. And he said, I think this is what you need to do now. So you can couple 4 or 5 things together and do what I used to do at a regular job. So it wasn't really hard with her. She was a little apprehensive, because she's one of these people. It's got to be here for me to see it. It's hard for me to just envision it. But she did it, and she trusts me. And so far, it's been going on 4 years, and it's been pretty amazing. And my weeks consist of working here at home on the phone, running my mouth, doing this kind of stuff, and then that might be 2 hours today, and then I don't have to do anything for 3 days, other than
Right.
just stay on top of things on social media. And it's just created, a lot of flexibility and just quality of life for me. It's just amazing. There's stresses in everything.
Oh yeah.
But my biggest stress is just to make sure that I'm keeping up with what I need to, and making sure that, whenever there's an uh-oh in a tournament, that's my job, is to sit around and wait for something to happen. It really is. I mean, because
Hmm.
all the computer and the X's and O's stuff it's not easy, but once you know how to do it, you can do it,
Right.
muscle memory. But how you handle things, that's AJ and I always joked. I'd call him while he was running one, or vice versa, if we weren't fishing. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just sitting around waiting on something to happen." And most of the time, nothing ever happens. So you just have to sit there all day long with that dread in your stomach that, because here's the thing, it really bothers us when you submit a fish and you've messed your picture up and we have to disqualify it.
Hmm.
We don't like calling you, because we're calling somebody that you respect and they're in this to do well, and it sucks. And then you
Oh
got to
yeah.
worry if somebody's going to flip out, which has happened a few times, but not really anything to be concerned about. But and every time they're upset at the situation, not that their fish got disqualified. And then they most of the time realize, oh, I should have done this, because we do have TDOs. We've got judges that make a wrong call on a crack mouth, or miss a number on a board, and it just happens. And that's, you have to do your best to work around those kinds of things. But
The damage control. Yeah.
that's it. That's the damage control. Yeah.
So with your job that you were in prior to going full tilt, did you enjoy that job?
I did. I mean, I've always, like, again, right out of school, I was, blessed to get, really good jobs at chemical plants around here. That's where your money is,
Mhm.
and phenomenal. And then when I started this job that I just left several years ago, I was actually in maintenance at a cement plant here, and it's like the real deal. Like, it's from the gravel to, sand and iron ore. We grind it, make a powder, cook it, make clinker balls, grind it up into cement. So it's from start to scratch. And it was hot, it's dirty, it's a hard job.
Mhm.
I had it made, though, because I was what you call a lube technician. So when we would get in gearboxes, I would have to drain the factory oil out, clean them, fill them up with the right amount of oil. When we would get new bearings and motors in, I would have to set the tolerances on those, and then go around and maintain those throughout. So I had a route,
Mhm.
and I can say it all now. When I got my route done, I was done. And my boss, he was one of my best buds. Eventually, he was a fisherman too, so he worked with me big time. I
Oh
could
yeah.
work 4 10s and be off Friday and Monday to go to Seminole and fish a Hobie, and come back and work 4 10s, make up the money I missed, and
Right.
not have to use vacation. Dude, oh man, he hooked me up, and it was a good job, because, again, once I got it done, I got it done.
Right.
And so, like, there were weeks where I would get things done by Tuesday, and I mean, I'll be honest, if I didn't have that job, I wouldn't have the kayak stuff we've got, because I did so much work. People will tell you, everybody's always praised me because they can always get a hold of me, and I can't tell you how many times I've been up, 200 feet in a basket working on something, and have my earbud in talking to somebody, about fishing stuff, and that's manufacturers included. I mean, it was, yeah, I had a
Multitasking.
blast with it. Absolutely. And it was just, I was always doing. Somebody told me at a turn, I think it might have been at the Classic one year. He's like, I don't know that I've ever met anybody that can have a conversation with a person on the phone, in live person, text, do something on social media, and do an email all at, like, the same time.
Phew.
I don't know. You just,
Ethan Jetson here making waves. He said Steve O is a rough judger, and he said ask him how he got the nickname Sweet Daddy. Oh,
we can't
Ethan.
do it. We can't
Mm,
do it. No, that's a
nope.
term of endearment for me. Sweet daddy. Yeah,
Sweet Daddy.
pretty good.
Yeah, that's my had a great uncle who worked at a concrete plant on the Eastern Shore, and his job was to grease the crane, and he would climb the cranes like just hand like a little monkey, just
Yeah,
up there and grease them.
yeah,
He had a grip that would break your fingers, man. It was crazy,
yeah.
but well,
Yeah, so it was a good job. I enjoyed it. I'm glad to be out of it because I mean, again, it's everywhere I've ever worked. There's a reason you get paid great money. It's because you
Hmm.
work a crappy shift and it's dangerous. So that's cement plants are no joke. I mean, everywhere you go to put your hand, there's something there that'll pull you into it and just rip you in half. I mean,
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I've seen a lot. I've had people, pass away on us and stuff like that, and it's yesterday the plant I worked at caught on fire. We used reclaimed tire as part of a fuel system, and I mean it was smoldering. You could see it for 50 miles. They said the smoke plume. Pretty crazy.
Wow. Well, that's good that you liked it. Usually the transition from day job to doing something is accompanied by a I did not like my day job. So that's really fortunate that
Yeah,
you did a transition based on um not necessity. It was
yeah, and not a need, just because I wanted to and I chose to. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
you're right. I've always been blessed to, like as a young man, you chase every dollar. So if
Hmm.
you make 750, a company's going to pay you 875. You can take that 875 job. And then thankfully, hopefully later on in life, you can kind of choose what you want.
Right. Well, that's cool that you the transition and how you got there. So, um, what came first? Was it the directing of tournaments or participating in tournaments?
Man, it was participating, but I don't think I had fished two tournaments. Um, and our TVKA tournament director, he got surprised as he was dropping his chins at 45 years old or something like that. So he said, "Guys, I'm out." He said, "I'm out. I can't do this anymore." And so um, I think I fished two tournaments, and we had our TVKA Classic in November, and that's when I started tournament directing. That club was right then and there, and of course, you don't know a thing about any of it, and so you
Hmm.
screw up.
That learning curve.
That's
So
it,
you sort of
buddy.
just
And thankfully,
you
thankfully, one
I'll say you just fell right
just
into it, huh?
just got thrown into it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
I was a cub master one time because I took all the training so that I could know if they were doing it correctly, and then because I had the training, and when the guy left, I was the guy. I was like, great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
some have greatness thrust upon them.
That's it.
So,
Yep. Yep.
so when you're doing your tournament directing, do you you don't fish, of course, but do you miss the fishing? Because you're sitting there watching all these things being caught. Do you feel like a FOMO, fear of missing out? Like you're like, man, I wish I were in it to versus watching everyone else do it.
On some of them I do. So like Bass Nation, I still fish those, Tennessee and Georgia
Hmm.
Bass Nation. So Daniel Davis and I, we run those together, and he helps me with Bassmaster also. So I outsource our judging. Now, if I have to, I go in and have to do
Hmm.
some things from time to time. But so like Daniel, and I think we're past the point of people not needing to know certain things because of cheating. But I'm always transparent, even to a fault. So most of my judges, I don't give them location access. So if I need you to fill in for a weekend, and where do you live, Virginia?
Yes.
Say we're fishing Fish Mountain Lake, Smith Mountain Lake. Well, if we got a Bassmaster there next year and you're running Virginia Bass Nation for me, or Georgia Bass Nation, we're fishing there, I don't think with good conscience, you would want to fish a Bassmaster knowing you judge fish all over that lake. So I
Right.
take that pressure off of you so that I don't have to answer that question to people. So you don't have location access. Um, and so having said that, I don't judge the fish on Tennessee, Georgia Bass Nation. And, 98% of the Bassmaster ones I don't judge. I'll stay in and I click the leaderboard so that I can keep up with the story. And then I go through and check duplicates nonstop. While typically we have two people judging fish, and I'm there
Hmm.
to handle the tiebreaker. Is this a split mouth or whatever, that kind of thing. But other than that, I keep my hands out of it. Number one, so that you and Daniel, say you two are our judges, you guys have done them enough now that you know how one another judges. You judge from the bottom of the list, he judges from the top, and we communicate in a chat group over here. And then throughout the day, if issues come up, they'll send me the angler name. I'll pull up their leaderboard and check their stuff or whatever. So I still get to fish as much as I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And so because how we hire our judging out, but like looking at Champlain, it sucked. It was a 1-day tournament when 156 people catch 950 something bass in 8 hours. Oh man. And some of those Susky tournaments, watching them people just throw up 18-inch smallmouth,
Mm-hmm.
and that be their 5th largest fish. They couldn't cull a 18, it does that's a little bit. I tell everybody, I do want you to feel sympathy for me because I get to sit here and watch y'all catch good fish, and I don't get to catch them. So, yeah. But no, it's a good trade-off because I get to do whatever I want to on the way home most of the time. So.
Now, as a director, do you set up any of the trails? Do you make? Are you the person that says, okay, we're going to go to this lake, this lake, this lake, for?
Yeah, yeah. They give me free reign on literally everything. And GL Compton's my counterpart. I call him my boss, but he won't ever say that. But he's phenomenal. And Bassmaster is literally, okay, is this legal? Is it financially responsible? After that, it's if that's what the anglers want, do it. And so they trust that, because I have an unofficial panel. I probably talk to a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people that don't even fish, travel tournaments. It's just, they may just fish their series in Indiana, but I get their feedback because I don't know everything, and if I don't have your perspective, then I'm not reaching a demographic, and so yeah, I do the rules, tournaments, where we're going, format, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, they pretty well let me do whatever we want.
Oh,
and then I do the scheduling for Tennessee and Georgia Bass Nation also, and then not TVKA anymore. That's some other good guys took that over, so that's one more schedule I don't have to worry about now. So.
Nice. So this is Carol Wells says, Steve, do you see going forward 2 motors being allowed during tournaments? She does not.
No, I don't. I can't with good conscience do it because I've had it. I've seen people with a top level kayak do it, and it's not safe. It's not an arms race, because if you start doing that, then let's just say you have a Jackson Coosa, a very, very top shelf kayak. You can't put a bow and stern motor on that kayak. It won't handle it. So now we have to start investigating everybody's rigs. Well, will it handle it? Well, just because the weight limit says it'll handle it, you're still in a very narrow kayak. So then when you've got 2 motors, those are keels. Those help you sway and swing. So it's naturally easier to flip. And another thing, and this is probably my main point other than safety. And I know safety is supposed to be paramount, and it is. But for me, doing what I do for a living my whole life, safety is not an afterthought, but it's such a big part of every thought that you make. You just don't really mention safety a lot. You just know inherently you're going to be safe. So for me, the biggest thing with the 2 motors is almost like the electronics race. You don't want barrier for entry. People thinking, I got to have 2 motors to get in the kayak now. They already think you got to have 2 graphs when you don't. You don't have to have forward-facing sonar. It's a tool that's easily affordable. I know it's expensive, but you don't have to spend $2,500 to get that. You can buy a used graph and a used forward-facing sonar. And then what you've done, which for me, I think the biggest advantage of forward-facing sonar is you're not just wondering what's in front of you as you're casting. You literally get to see it. And I don't even care if you see fish because it's still not easy to see fish on them. And so, especially with water changes, which one thing I did learn was don't try to make it as clear as your television. Otherwise, you're going to spend all your time fooling with that stupid graph. You're still going to see a bubble, a fish, you're going to see that return on that sonar. As long as you can see that, be comfortable with that. So anyway, to answer your question, I don't mean to go on a rant there,
No,
but
you're good.
I don't think that's healthy for us. I
Right.
know it's great. People love it. I love gadgets. My wife calls me bougie all the time. I can't just buy a mouse that goes click click. I got to buy one that feels just right. And so she wears me out all the time. But
Yeah,
I
I
love
was going to
stuff
ask the
too.
same question too, because well, like the new Flux Jet that came out, it's got the integrated motor, and then well, if you're going to do anything as far as like fine moving around, you may need a bow mount motor to for trolling around for fishing, and then so that was my
Yeah.
question, and then. My other thought was if you say two motors, there's going to be some Yahoo that puts two NK 300s on the back and just tries to plane his way to the other side of the lake.
Yeah, that's why we made certain in our rules it's a single propeller, also a single prop. Yeah, and it's cool, man. It is. It's nice, but I see some people getting disenfranchised and not fishing anymore because they think, and that sucks. I'm all for advancement. I don't believe in censorship that much at all, as
Right.
long as it's healthy. But I do see some people kind of getting a little jaded with it. But that's also your own fault for thinking that way. You don't. I'm
Yeah.
not going to let you keep me from doing something I love. I'm just going to find out how to be better, hopefully. And then I also understand, um, you know, this is my limit. This is as good as I am. So I'm comfortable finishing 14th this weekend because I know I didn't have it, you know.
Awesome. So we're at the midway point, and I've sent out a questionnaire, and some people have asked some questions. This is sponsored by Kayak Coffee. They have amazing whole bean coffee. If you're a coffee drinker, I recommend it. Um, so this is from Steve Burge. His first question is, how far do you think kayak tournaments have come since you started, and how far do you think they'll go?
As far as how far they've come, I, it's not hard to answer that, but at the same time, it's hard to quantify it
Hmm.
because we're still fishing for the kind of the same amount of money. Other than because anybody can put $250 sticker on a tournament and run one. But what I do think where it's excelled the most is that we're all kind of speaking the same language now. Most all of our rules are pretty unified. The structure's unified. Um, Other improvement is just the normal experience factor. People run in tournaments that have more experience now, so they've
Hmm.
made their uh-ohs and they learn how to do it a little better, hopefully. And then transparency has improved greatly in the sport. Um, and then I guess I don't want to overstate that it might be the single biggest, but I think exposure has grown big time, and a lot of that is KBF did a phenomenal job with graphics, trophies, going to locations. They had a very good volunteer TD staff program, kind of because it takes a lot of people to do that many kind of tournaments.
Hmm.
Did a phenomenal job bringing in sponsor money from places that we can't get money from now. I mean, it's hard to do that, and they did a phenomenal job at it and paid out millions to people. I would say without over exaggerating. And then from there, the Hobie stuff started happening, and those tournaments were just put on showstoppers. And then with Bassmaster, we replicated a lot of what we do in those because that's how I learned to run tournaments was from Nick Brown and KBF and AJ. And I tell everybody, Vinny helped me with our grassroots stuff 12 years ago. When he
Hmm.
was when Queen City was just getting a little bigger, and we all copied Mountain State kayak anglers because Mountain State for years was just wrecking. They had tons of people in their tournaments, and so um, I think the exposure that Bassmaster has now, I think our anglers going to the Bassmaster Classics, the fishing expos, and showing people that they'll work has helped a big time too. There's a lot of good social media kayakers, and that
Hmm.
helps big time because that's what everybody's looking for now. It's hard to get product for a tournament series. It's hard to get sponsor dollars for a tournament series because we have so many good singular individuals that are doing a super good job for these companies. They're getting a huge return off of what they do on social media, and that's something everybody needs to pay attention to because that's where your next step is if you want to make it in any kind of fishing, even if it's just to keep you going in the kayak space.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna need that sometimes. But having said that, if you can't do that, that's okay too. Just know, what you need to do to make sure that your dollars go where they need to go, so that you can stay on the road and travel and do whatever together. Because one thing I think kind of has went a little bit away from what we used to do in kayaking, and maybe it's because we're all older now. But used to, we would all pile up 3, 4 deep in the truck, and then we would haul butt to Seminole or somewhere and stay in a room, and sleep butt to back, or sleep in a chair, or throw an air mattress in the floor, um, and stay like that together. I don't think we get that as much as that anymore. But I think again, there it's because people are older now, maybe. But
It also could be a different generational type of thing. Like I remember younger, we used to do sleepovers, go to a friend's house, and wherever
yeah,
you passed out is where you slept, pretty much.
yeah,
And now
yeah,
you have kids that you got to do an interview with the mom and dad, like
yeah. Or they're friends on Fortnite and they never laid
yeah,
eyes on each other. I mean, yeah,
what's your evacuation plan in case of a tsunami? You're in Arizona. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Stand at the top of the hill.
That's
So,
it. Yeah.
uh, but he has another question. What capabilities would you add to a new kayak that doesn't currently exist?
I don't know. I thought about this a lot because I work at Dugout. We do a ton of rigging,
Mm-hmm.
and Jamie, he's been a part of rod designs for G Loomis, St. Croix. He's been bait manufacturer design guy. I mean, he's just done it all. And the only thing, and I thought like with the Hobie Pro Angler 14. So we had a meeting with the Hobie owners when they first bought it, and I had pitched to them like on a Lynx when it was coming out and stuff like that. They needed some green tech, a motor, like the Torpedo one that would drop in the drive space that a person could throw in a backpack, and he and his spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, uh, carry it in the woods somewhere and go camping for the weekend and have a little motorized thing to kick you around the blue holes in Florida or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one was to take the Pro Angler 14, because at that point, all we were doing was throwing more stuff on the same kayaks we always had. And we run out of room, run out of room on them. And then they come out with a bona fide XTR, which is a great, great platform, So I'll be honest with you, I don't know where we could go with a kayak again, or a fishing platform, because that's where we're at.
Right.
I really don't. I really can't. And again, I'm not a revolutionary kind of guy. You just point me in the right direction and tell me to do something, and I'll get it done. But I'm not the idea guy, so it's hard for me to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that are probably 15 steps ahead of where we are right now.
Yeah.
This is from Philip Huddick. He's with 47 Lures. His first question: what do you see as the next evolution in kayak tournament fishing?
Streaming. That's something we talk about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at changing not the format of fishing, but how we hold our championship, because right now we're married to the Classic, and which is great, but that limits our exposure, because the Classic's the Classic. It shouldn't be anything other than that. That's like the World Series, showing cornhole or something. I mean, it's just we're still fishing, but the Classic's the Classic, and so all that space is already spoken for. So we're really, really lucky to get the time we do. And I think the next way that we can get sponsor engagement is we're the only championship Bassmaster has that is not a standalone on itself. So we're looking at separating it, having it later in the year where we can have the media truck, we get the stage, the whole 9 yards,
Mm-hmm.
and make it its standalone. I think now that we've created a healthy enough brand that we can do that and it be successful, because now, we're the only show online. There'll be nothing
Right.
else going on. We can stream on bassmaster.com and do all of it. And now Bass has, their television channel on Roku, so now there's content for them to put on there. But we need to figure out a way, and I don't know how to do it because it's so expensive. The boats can hardly even do it. The anglers keeping their footage, like we have a Dropbox, and it's, the last 2 tournaments we've had, I've had 2 videos get sent to it. And Drew Gregory got us GoPros to give away for free. during your Bassmaster practices and tournament, if you'll upload your catches in there, we'll random draw one. And we've had, including the championship, 6 tournaments so far this year, and I've probably gotten 30 videos. A lot of them aren't what you're looking for. So I've probably gotten 8 usable videos out of that many tournaments for a free GoPro. So
right,
we got to do it ourselves too. We got to participate in these things. So
that's the other thing I've noticed too about the young influencer, if you will. Not only are they fishing, but they're capturing quality audio, video. They're putting thoughts into the content, and that's I own a photo studio, so I look around, and there's some people. There's like a Real Michael Fishing, I think it is, on Instagram. Cinematic quality stuff. There's Chad Brock.
yeah,
His stuff, amazing quality stuff. And I'm like, man, those are the things that draw me in. Is when you look at it, it's not just a point and shoot, or they've got the 30 lens. They're not taking their content to that level of where it draws people in. And even with the up and coming youth, they're not necessarily cinematic, but they've got clean lenses. They've got the light in the right direction. They take the time because they know they want the views. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, it was kind of like what you're supposed to do in life is just, I mean, you get paid to sweep a floor. You don't get paid to just get it done. You get paid to sweep it and it be clean. So,
Right.
That's what these guys are doing. We've got a lot of good ones. Ethan on our dugout team, he's got some YouTube stuff he does. We got, Louis Delgado down in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm jealous of those guys. I mean, they,
he's another one.
They're out there. Yeah, they're out there. There's river fishing yeah, they do a great job. I had a conversation with Christine today because there's some things I have to start doing to keep the sponsorship wheels on the state level stuff, and it involves content stuff. And I have cried, kicked, and screamed for 10 years that I'm not doing that, but it's here. You have to have, even if it's just a 30-second something to send to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're listening to. It's no more, like Tennessee, we average almost 90 a tournament.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. And guess what? That don't matter, because they know you might get 25 people staying in a hotel, because I explain with them up front, hotel stays. I know that's what you got to have to keep your job, but nobody uses them because we don't want to park our stuff in the middle of a parking lot. We want to be in a house somewhere where we can cook a meal, and take a good shower and stretch out. And, it's just not feasible a lot of times. And so a lot of them that I have a good relationship with, they understand that now, and they see the return that we bring, because they're a small enough town that they see, one restaurant made $1,100 Saturday because the kayakers came in and had pizza, beer, and wings.
Mm-hmm.
They get that return, but it's just getting harder everywhere. We're lucky where we live to have in Tennessee, like the Bill Dance Signature Lake stuff we've talked about some, and everything. So it's got to happen.
Yeah, we'll touch on this one here. This is from Tactical Kayak Fishing. What are key points when picking a body of water for your tournaments? They're new to the tournament directing for their club.
Yeah. So for me, it's always been, even on a state level, the body of water. Like, where do people want to fish? Because kayaking, you still have to make every tournament a destination lake, because you're not going to drive across the state of Tennessee to fish Norris in October, but you'll drive across the state of Tennessee to fish Chickamauga in October, so find the body of water that people want to fish. And then I look at time of year, and then I reach out and say, hey, do you have this date available for us? And if they don't, then I look at, plan B, like this year or next year. We're going to our 3rd tournament of the year, when I would rather our 4th tournament be on that same body of water on the 3rd. I wish I could swap them, but they're a month apart, but I can't. They're still going to fish really good, but they would just be lights out, on the others. And so that's just what you do. And then, but it's always the body of water that the anglers want to go to. I always put up posts on Tennessee, Georgia, and Bassmaster. Where do y'all want to go? And then I just put them all on a list, and then I'd start. I go through AI, I go through Google, and I start looking, and then I reach out to you anglers that I know. Casey Reed lives Smith Mountain and fishes it, so I'll call him, and he's like, you don't really need to go then. You need to go here, and then so that's when I go, and then I start reaching out to the kayak clubs in the area. Hey, you guys care to work around the schedule? I don't care to tell you what I'm working on. If we're working together, I don't think your schedule has to be this. Take it to your grave until it's revealed, because I tell everybody.
Right.
I call it Vinny. It's already been released, but we're going to Clarendon County announced. We're going to Santee Cooper at the end of May next year for Bassmaster and Queen City. So, but the first thing I do is reach out to people in that area and say, hey, can we work together so we can maximize attendance? Not step on each other's toes, but it's always the body of water.
So speaking about maximizing attendance, do you see, because you run one of the biggest tournaments that's out there, do you see the younger generation coming in to that, or is it still just the older mid to older generations that are kayak fishing?
It's right now it's mostly mid to older, but there are a lot of younger people getting in it, because we started the Hobie Bass Open College Series, AJ and I, and I ran it for a year. I think it ran 3 years total, and then this year we brought in a college element to the Bassmaster events as well. And so we're getting more and more people interested in that. We're getting people asking. We got a college fishing. We got a college fishing team. What do I have to do to have a college kayak fishing team? Well, it just takes one person.
Right.
And so now we've got like Ohio State, Minnesota. They're all wanting to come and fish. So it's younger. They're getting into it a lot more are coming in. So
what about high school level? Have you all thought about expanding down that low?
No, if we do that, just because there's not enough people to do things, what I plan on doing here in Tennessee is if you're 16, you got Tennessee Bass Nation you can fish, and then that'll qualify you for the Tennessee Bass Nation Championship, which then can get you to the Bassmaster Championship. But we don't have enough calendar. We don't have enough schedule calendar. We don't have enough people to do more tournaments. We just don't. So we're pretty fortunate here in Tennessee. We've always had an outstanding grassroots system with CAST, Kayak Angler Society of Tennessee. It's been around about 14, 15 years. And we work together. So, if we're on Chickamauga, there'll be 3 or 4 of those clubs scheduled the same day as us, and we'll do a joint event here, and do it that way. That way you're maximizing calendar. It makes the payouts bigger because now people are double dipping. Because like our grassroots club, we've had, Eric Siddiqui, Jody Queen, people from all over the country would always fish our grassroots as they're headed on the way to a Hobie somewhere, because they knew we run a good tournament, and our payouts have always been really good because of the participation we get.
That's good. Yeah, that's the one thing that I've noticed. Even like when they do the on the water days locally for people to come test out kayaks, it's not a lot of young people coming out to look at the offerings. So my fear is it's going to be one of those things where, like the Ruritan Club, you walk in like you're 50 years old and you're the youngest guy there.
Yeah. Well, we were having that conversation today at my dugout job. Because we got Bonafide coming in, and the reason we do that is because we got to give you options, and it's tough, it's tough. It is tough to sell a kayak these days. It just is. We had a really good year last year, but it was because we sold volume because we had to discount everything. That's just the way it is. You've got shops closing like crazy, because, now that, we can even quit saying when COVID was around, because that's years ago. Now we settled back into what life really was before then. It's a grind, And so now, we need to maximize what we offer to people. It's hard to spend $3,000 on a kayak. So if you're going to spend $3,000, then it needs to be a kayak that you can put a motor on for a lot of people,
Right.
And a lot of people just kind of have forgotten about the DIY stuff,
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that here's a thing that I have, because I know a lot of people that have a lot of cool toys that cost a lot of money. So I don't think that the price of the kayaks necessarily are the differentiator. I think one of the problems is the education of, um, you can get your family into a fishing kayak, and let's say you're like when we were younger, we go fishing, but now you could put a trailer, hook it to your bike, and take it to a local waterway just by pedaling there. So I don't think that, I think a lot of it is education and bringing in the younger generation. Because I think that if my son came to me and is like, I want to go kayak fishing, well, now I'm going to get him a kayak. But in order to be part of his life, I'm going to buy a kayak as well. And we're going to go
Right.
through and do stuff together. So um, I don't think that a lot of youth know about the kayak world yet. Maybe when they get
Right.
up a little further. And I mean, in your area, I mean, it might be really, really immersed in everyone knows about the fish and the kayaks or whatever. But a lot of places that are like around here in Virginia Beach, there's a good kayak community, but there's not a lot of youth that are really kicking in. And I don't want to see the sport die off.
Right. Well, in order for that to not happen, I mean, people have to get up and start
Hmm.
promoting what they got and finding ways because and I've gotten a lot of it and I handled it pretty well, I think. But people will come to you with an idea, hey, here's what we need to do nonstop. And because you're a leader, they want you
Hmm.
to help them with it. You don't always have that kind of time, to do it. So um, other people, because we see other states in our area that just don't have, they got amazing fisheries, but they just don't have a population of tournament angler, and again, not everything has to be a tournament. It just doesn't.
Right.
But that's what draws attention to the fishing or tournaments because that's what we do. We want to man up, even if it's $20. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a $300 tournament that you got to
Right.
travel days and days for. But we're seeing really good kayak communities just disappear because people are just tired of doing it. Social media ruins a lot of kayak fishing because people get on there, bump their gums, and they just want to be badasses and just do whatever, and it just runs people away, and nobody communicates the way they should. I mean, we've all had those uh-ohs. Um, so
Right. People don't realize the internet's forever.
yeah, yeah, and fishing in your area is not. I mean, because
Yes.
you're going to look around and all your buddies are no longer kayak fishing. So what are you going to do? You're going to get tired of going by yourself, you know.
Yes. Most
Um,
definitely.
and I think that's why you got to temper expectations because I have people call all the time, like, "Hey, how do I put on a monster tournament? This, that, and the other." And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know how to put on a monster tournament. I just know how to put on a tournament and do it, in a certain way that people have responded to. Now,
Right.
tomorrow they might not, and I got to figure out why they're not. So you can't. There's no recipe for that. So like we talked about with tactical kayak fishing, do it with the right intentions. Find the body of water that the anglers want to go to. Try to get it the best time of year that you can. Try to deconflict with boat tournaments so that you're not putting them in harm's way. And then you got to get the solar lunar right. Then you got to get the weather right. You got to make sure it don't rain. You got to make sure they got what they wanted for breakfast. And then so when you get all that figured out, you had a good tournament.
So I want to ask you one more question about
Huh?
marketing because I know, like when I call certain companies, they're not looking to, we're not looking to advertise. We're not looking to put dollars towards whatever. Do
Yeah.
you feel that the pullback of the marketing in the community is hurting its growth because they're relying on influencers who are not young? You know what I'm saying? Like most of your influencers are parents. Ethan Jett is probably like one of the younger ones, and some other people coming in. Like I know that Mike Iaconelli's son is coming in to do stuff. He might be someone who's Vegas might be a great gateway into that community. But where they're not advertising, they're not hitting the mass group of incoming. Do you think that's a downfall or a strategic, uh, a good strategic plan on their part not to put money towards advertising?
I think they do that out of necessity
Hmm.
because their budgets are gone. You know, One of the leading brands in the industry just laid off 10 mid-level reps the other day. And so it's just not there, you know. And I don't think that's a fault of a tournament organization or
Mhm.
influencers at all. But what's happening is that influencer is knocking on doors, and when they do that, they have something to offer. You
Mhm.
know, you look at the boat side, of all the pros, there's just a percentage. I can't even give a number, but let's just say there's probably only, well, we kind of got to do numbers 150, 100, 300 to 400 pros on MPFL, Bassmaster, MLF, and then the Bass Open people. Um,
Mhm.
how many of those do you ever see do real good social media stuff?
Mhm.
You probably got enough extremities on your body to count them.
Right.
Um, it's just not a lot, and that's what people are looking at anymore. When you go to the trade shows, you look at these guys who were Superman, and their jerseys are now very few logos. These little bitty logos that were everywhere are now big logos because there's less of them. Like I thought, I never in a million years did I think Gerald Swindle would somehow would part ways with Mountain Dew, but it happened, and I don't know why. That's just real. That's the only human person I ever saw advertise Mountain Dew was him,
Right.
and did a great job. And then you look at Megabass. Megabass used to be Aaron Martins, Edwin Evers, Randy Blockett, Chris Zaldane. There was one other guy, Dave Svenstead, which he's with Duo and all. He's got his own company now. He's a phenomenal man, one of the best men I've ever not met but befriended in the industry. And then Aaron Martins left to go with Duo when Dave did. Well, then somehow along the way, Megabass cut Edwin Evers, who was an advertiser, all the time. And then they had oh, what's the little short guy? He's phenomenal too. Big Bass Dreams. But anyway, he was there for them, did a lot for them, and then they just cut him. They just cut him. And I helped. I did field rep stuff for the national rep, become a friend of ours here in the area. Phenomenal guy, and I do field rep stuff just because I wanted product for our kayak tournaments. And as much as I helped him, he would give me what he could, but it was literally out of the trunk of his car. He said, there's just no budget for that stuff. That's because the margins are shrinking in
Mhm.
profitability. There's a lot of stuff now that the quality is just not what it used to be either. There's several brands that now use the same Malaysian factory that another cheap company used to use. So now you can pick it up and you can just tell, know.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to get your mom and pops the best you can.
Right.
Especially soft plastics stuff.
Yeah. And we were discussing before we started about, whenever I go into a mom and pop or even, you know, not necessarily chain, but a little above, I always try to leave with something just so I feel like I'm supporting as best I can.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah. And local tackle shops. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've caught good fish because I looked and there was one or two packs of something left, and I bought that pack, and that was what there was a
yes,
reason. There's a reason they're almost out of it. So
it's almost like self
did that a
checkouts.
lot.
Like when it was starting to be a thing, people were like, "Oh, go over there. It's easier." Like even the cashiers were like, "Just go to self checkout." I'm like, "You don't realize what you're doing. They're gonna
Yeah, you're getting rid of
replace you." The
yourselves.
next week I go in, there's one employee and 8 registers that you have to check out yourself. I'm like, "Well, where's Becky?" Oh, well, she got fired.
Yeah, I went in Publix the other day and there was 4 human registers open and 2 self-check, and 6 self-check were shut down. I don't know what happened. And so I was just like, it's funny you mentioned that because I noticeably realized we got more human processors working right now than we do the
Yeah,
other,
I went to Home
so
Depot, no, sorry, Lowe's, and when I was leaving, there's only the option for self checkout. That's it.
that's right.
I'm like,
I've
man.
seen that lots of
So
times. But people won't show up to work anymore, I don't know. And so to some of your point is I don't know how in the world some of these people doing all this content are making a living,
right.
period. because I know what a lot of people get paid, and most of the time it's a product deal for years,
Hmm.
So yeah, but kudos to them because they're working hard to do it. That's why you can't ever hate
Right.
on anybody. If they were like, "Oh, look at that little goofball," hey, they're doing it. They're doing their thing. You got
Most
to respect
definitely.
that.
And it's such a grind too that if you
Yeah,
it's like having the baby. If you don't watch the baby, it's going to do something wrong. You got to keep your eye on it. Just like
yeah,
being a self-employed. If you don't keep on top of it, it can
yeah,
get away from you really quickly. So
yeah,
I think we've
yeah.
covered all of that. Now I want to touch on
Mhm.
if I were wanting to do a tournament, because we are discussing this tournament before we started. If I were wanting to do a tournament that was like going to get me some good potential return on investment, what would you recommend right now?
Um, you know, for us, like our Bass Nation
Hmm.
stuff, it's really, really taken off. And then this year, we got partnered with the Bill Dance Signature Lakes here in Tennessee. And so 6 of our Tennessee Bass Nation tournaments were in partnership with the Bill Dance Signature Lakes and the Bill Dance Giant Bass Open Series. And the Giant Bass Open Series is a boat tournament where you come in hourly and weigh in a
Hmm.
fish. So what we did on the kayak side was they put in money for us to award $100 an hour for big bass throughout our whole tournament for those 6 events. And then we still have our Sniper Marine Big Bass for Tennessee and Georgia Bass Nation. So um, Shane Frazier, guy that owns the Giant Bass Open Series, he's run a couple of others, still runs one other really successful boat tournament. And so what they found a way to do on the Giant Bass Open Series, partly because they saw what we do in the kayak world, was they wanted to do an online tournament. And so they came out with the Bill Dance Open 365-day tournament. And so what that does is for $45, you go to Fish Chaos and sign up. And for that $45, you fish the whole year. You're in it for the whole year. And how it's broken down is it's in regions. And so you've got the big three: California, Texas, Florida. And then you've got the West, Southeast,
Hmm.
Northeast, Central. So they're all, pretty self explanatory. And then what you get is for the minimum entry for this tournament, though, is an 18-inch bass or a 4-pounder. So when you register, you get to pick you're fishing from either a boat, a kayak, or the bank. And you either choose for the entire 365, you want to measure or you want to weigh your fish. And so then after that, it's traditional. You measure it, take a picture with your identifier code, upload it, or take a picture of your scale with your identifier code in it and take a picture of that weight. And then so for every 18-inch fish you upload onto the Fish Chaos during this event, you get put into a year-end raffle drawing. And that year-end raffle is based off of registration. So let's just say right now we have I'm gonna pull up right now. I've got the monthly prizes pulled up, but I'm gonna pull up the yearly prizes. So let's say we've got
Want me to share that screen?
grand prizes here. If you don't mind, we'll just do the grand prizes real quick because I won't get too in detail with that. So for the grand prizes, um, you can see right there, if we've got 1,000 people in it, which we foresee it going more into the tens of thousands because the boat world has a lot of this going on that Fish Chaos app because of the way it's structured. And so, say we're here in the southeast region on length. If we've got 2,500 people at the end of the year, that big fish will win you $250. Well, that don't sound like a lot, but still, it's $250 off 45. Well, what that also does is the top 5 biggest bass from that region by length get invited to the championship. And you can drop that down if you want for now. I'll pull up another one in a moment, but you get invited to an entry fee free tournament for $100,000 that's based off of how many people are in it and at a certain progression of anglers. So we'll just speak in terms of we get 25,000 people in the tournament. There's a raffle that's drawn for a 18-foot fiberglass boat as well as a truck. There's a truck for it as well. And so back to what it takes to.
Hold on. Can you
And
repeat
once
that?
you
I think
upload
you
that
skipped
18
out.
inch fish, you get okay. So you get
I think
sorry,
I
I'm trying
lost
to
you
pull
at
up the
the boat
graphic,
and the
got me
truck.
distracted. Yeah, so that's the grand prizes for the end of the year. So just to kind of back up and break it down a little easier to understand,
Mm-hmm.
when you get in this tournament every month, um, we're almost there. When you get 1,000 registrants every month, whatever region you're in, that big bass will get $100 awarded to you. And then there's also entries into a raffle for X amount of $50 prizes and then $40 prizes as well, cash prizes. And how you get into that is it's an 18-inch fish minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So that gets you into the monthly drawing for your prizes. But now every 22-inch bass here in the Southeast that you catch puts you in the running to be in the top 5 overall to make it to the championship. So every 18-inch fish you catch for the entire year gets you one more chance in that raffle for the end of the year to be drawn for a truck and a boat. So it's a way to get a little bit of small money every month. So let's say we got 1,000 people in it. You're gonna get $100 a month if you're the big bass leader in that region. So again, it's an online tournament. It's out there for bragging rights mainly, but
Mm-hmm.
in this you can win a little bit of money, and then the main goal is to make it to that championship at the end of the year. Because again, based on the numbers, if we can get up into what if we get around 25,000 people, then that puts us in a drawing to where you're going to be in a raffle for the fiberglass boat, an F-150 truck. So, so essentially you're just paying $45. You're going to go catch as many fish as you can throughout the year. Every 18-incher, you get a raffle ticket, and that's just what you're shooting for. And then when you catch those 22 inchers in the Southeast, you get to get your shot into the championship.
Very nice.
Yeah. And so that's we're working on some other contingencies
Mm-hmm.
that if you're fishing in, let's just say a Bassmaster event, there's an added bonus for your big bass of that tournament. So you may be one of 5 people like Sniper Marine. We've got a Sniper Marine contingency program through Georgia Bass Nation, Tennessee Bass Nation, and they support the Bassmaster one as well. They're not sponsored, but they have a contingency plan where if you send them your big fish from the tournament with your sniper pole in that picture somehow, and they look at the leaderboard and you're the only entry, you may have a 16 incher and you get an extra, $250, or $150, I think it is. Well, you may be the only person that uploads one because you're the only one that did it. And so these contingency programs, hopefully we can grow those a little more. And so that's what we're going to try to do here. So working on a sponsor in Georgia to try to do a $50 hourly big bass throughout the day in all the Georgia tournaments. And so appreciate you, Luke. So yeah, the Bill Dance stuff there, as I mentioned, it's easy entry fee. You fish at your own will, measure your fish, and you get put into that end of the year raffle. So.
Awesome. Yeah, $45 and with the potential to get a truck or a boat or even a 250 payout. I mean, that's pretty good. And you get to fish all year.
Yep. And in the monthly, because I mean, again, as I mentioned, you're talking about bank fishermen too. Those series, there's a lot of people, even over on Tony X, the banks beater series stuff, they get a lot of people in there. And so now we're up at 5,000 people, then that's, $350 you can win, a month for your big fish. So.
Awesome. Yeah. I appreciate everything that you're doing. It's a lot. I can tell you've got a lot on your plate. So I appreciate you coming out.
Yeah.
We're a little bit over an hour. I think we've covered a lot of stuff. Is there anything you want to leave as a parting gift, like a word of wisdom or anything we didn't cover?
No, I appreciate you using my sturgeon picture. That was awesome catch. That took me about 20 minutes to get in, and I caught it on 10-pound fluorocarbon.
Wow!
And there was one hook buried in the top of its mouth, and caught it below a dam. But No, man, I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to always talk, getting to know people. But there was one question on here. Cooper asked about BASS Series going to 8-10 national events.
Oh.
Not anytime soon. Because the reason being, we could put on 10 events, and I would love to have 10 because it kills me to not have a tournament in every region where people don't have to drive 10, 15, 16 hours. But we can't do it. Reason being is there's an overhead to having to run a tournament. Because the sponsor dollars, we have sponsors, but those sponsors are used to pay for certain things. And at the end of the day, there's not enough left for us to have more events. Because if we did, we may have, we had 230 people on Del Hollow. Well, if we add another event, we may have 120 on Del Hollow and 120 at that other event. So now we're spending more money to put on a tournament. So right now that's really hard. My main focus, I would love to stay where we're at with 6 in a championship, maybe 7 in a championship. But I want to try to figure out how we can come up with a way to kind of maybe make an elite series for our kayakers. We feel like the Bassmaster Series is considered an elite series to a lot of people, but we're still an open series. And so I feel like for us to have sponsors buy into what you're doing as an angler, they want to see that you're fishing into a Bassmaster Elite Series. I think that's when they might see a return and maybe start helping some people with some more money. So that's the main thing. I would just really like to do that. I think we're pretty good on rules, fine tuning some of that stuff. The Bass Nation stuff is continuing to grow pretty good. Kind of be honest with you, that's one of the few things I see actually growing. But we just got to support each other. We really do.
Yep.
You can't be paranoid that all this stuff's going on, because 80% of the stuff that you always heard as chatter is just conjecture, just people's opinions, or people chasing a rabbit, going down a rabbit hole. Like we've got Drew's Kayak Adventure Series. That's freaking fun. I fished the first one, man, and it's all I want to fish another one so bad I can't stand it. That's why I don't have time. And then we've got the Team Kayak Series that Michael Musgrove runs. That's a pretty good deal. That's coming. It's fun format, and then we've still got, we've got the Queen City, the Carolina Kayak Anglers, your grassroots stuff. I tell everybody the hardest part about kayak tournaments is that a kayaker will figure out any reason to not fish. And I'm one of them. I'm not going out there today. They ain't going to bite this. So I just don't go, or, well, Roy, he did such and such. And I don't like color bubble gum he chews. So he pissed me off. I'm not fishing. You got to be careful. That's why you got to keep your mouth shut kayak fishing, because you alienate and then they're just done. And so that's why you gotta be cool with what you do. Just support people. Don't put a face on it. Just say, I'm throwing down $40 and I'm gonna try to beat somebody this weekend. We just got to do that. So I appreciate you giving me a platform to ramble on. And
no worries. I appreciate the conversation. I do.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, because I know, like you said, you got all the things on your plate. So, and you had a bird in your garage you had to hunt down before you came in. So,
Yep. Well, I can tell you, we had 3 nets. Me, my wife, and my neighbor. We had 3 nets running around the garage trying to catch this bird. And finally, I think it just got so freaking exhausted, it just wouldn't move. And so we were able to scoop it up in one of those nets and get it out of there. So
awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Okay.
I'm going to put you in the back real quick. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, and I'm going to come back in and we'll say our goodbyes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. I cut him off. All right, everyone. That was episode 30 with Steve Owens. Great individual. Great conversation, in my opinion. Excuse me. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Again, this episode was brought to you by Snake River Manufacturing. Go to snakerivermanufacturing.us and check out all of the cool kayak trailers that they're making. They're just amazing. Let's see here. If you guys are in the market for some coffee, kayakcoffee.com has sponsored a lot of the question and answer periods, but they've also given us Cafe 20 for 20% off of their coffee. They are also an up and coming smaller business. So if you get an opportunity to support them, that would be amazing. Kayakcoffee.com. Go ahead and check them out. And if you guys want a cup, you can always go to Nico's Art Therapy on Facebook and purchase a cup. All of the proceeds go directly to Nico and his therapy. So they have exclusive rights. None of that comes to me. So again, thank you all. And this was